And we're live, brother. How you doing, man?
Hey, pretty good, man. Really, really excited. For those that haven't seen this yet, we are using a new platform called StreamYard, which will allow us to really pick and choose questions to go into a little box down here. But we're really, really excited to do it. It's part of that network deal we signed that's going to allow us to broadcast both on podcast and live to multiple platforms, man. So really, really, really excited. Definitely looks better as I look at it over here. I'm looking at us on the live on YouTube. It definitely gives us a nicer look than what we did have. But really, 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 really excited, man, moving forward. So kind of want to just really practice a little bit. You know, me and you have had issues with technology before. So kind of want to just get some kinks out and kind of start shooting from the questions, really. I know me and Jeremy have some topics, but if you look at the questions, some of the questions that we actually had topics are there. So anything you want to add before we start?
No, man, like you said, just excited to play with our new toys. We had topics that we want to discuss, but it looks like the comments box is getting kind of full. So if we get a chance to hit on ours, basically what we're going to talk about is Hudson and Robertson's additions, but you guys saw our commitment corners with those. A lot of talk about who's going to be the tackles now that Kelvin Banks has chosen Oregon. So we may get to that. And then CJ Williams in his final five. And then our two first team Big 12 preseason performers, the two number fives, one from offense and one from defense. But that's the kind of topics we want to hit on, but ready to fire away, brother.
Yeah, man. So we'll go ahead and start with the first question here, man, which is really cool because I don't have to really talk that much anymore. I kind of put the questions up on screen here from really Kobe Harris. And me and Jeremy had kind of talked about this a little bit, and we're actually going to, probably do a separate. I know we will do a separate, show on offensive line. But his question is early prediction on the starting offensive line, and more importantly, who y'all think back up at each spot. And I can tell you, me and Jeremy have kind of both worked on a two deep over the last week or so, and I think we're probably along the same lines. Have the same people. Your thoughts, Jeremy, man, on the offensive line? I know that's your baby. So,
well, I do want to preface it by saying that we got a brand new offensive line coach. So we've decided that amongst ourselves that we need to change. So I figured this is going to be a meritocracy. The best players will play. But currently, I don't want to give you a too deep, but I do want to give you my front five. It'd be Christian Jones, Junior Angelau, Jake Majors, Denzel Okafor, and Derek Kerstetter. The two spots that I think are up to grabs after Andre Carrick's performance last year, late in the season, I think he could battle for one of the tackle positions. I really think Christian Jones and him are going to have a good summer showdown and see what happens. And then possibly Tyler Johnson being your swing guy. And then I do expect the freshman Hayden Connor to get some play on that second team. So don't really have a too deep for you. Have nine solid guys I think that will see playing time.
Yeah, so Jeremy, not going to go too much into the too deep, but I kind of want to talk about some guys that we think may. I know he's talking about push for starting positions here, but really at that left guard, you're probably looking at Logan Parr, redshirt freshman, and probably or Hayden Connor, who's a true freshman, probably going to battle for a second spot there at that right guard position. Actually left guard position behind Junior Angelau. And then me and Jeremy were talking about Tyler Johnson. If you go back and look at Tyler Johnson, we were talking about the offensive line before we came in over here. We'll probably get more in depth as we get into the show. But number 58 in the nation when he came out as a recruit, actually came out as a tackle recruit. And I think they played, for whatever reason, they've kind of pushed him to play guard. But that may be one of those guys that you're looking at, here in the near future may have an opportunity to play tackle, depending on what really Kyle Flood wants to do. But we see him as a swing guy between really right guard and tackle at this particular point. And then obviously Andre Carrick probably backing up Kerstetter or fighting for a position at that right tackle position. Really want to get into, while we're talking about offensive line, probably want to just talk about recruiting right now. Obviously, it's been a roller coaster ride, and you had an opportunity for one of the top offensive tackles in the country, and he decided he wanted to go to Oregon. He chose Oregon over really Texas and Texas A&M. That's a big deal, man. Losing, a top really 15, top 20 recruit, 5-star recruit out of state of Texas again, but to a team like Oregon, who, if you look at their record over the last couple of years, really hasn't done much more than what Texas has done. Hasn't won a national championship, but they have something to sell out there, man. So, and then obviously Williams, same thing, out of out of Duncanville, Texas, decided he wanted to go to Oregon as well, man. So you missed on 2 offensive linemen, decided to go to Oregon. But you kind of follow up with the guys we did get in Robertson and Hudson.
Yeah, so Hudson and Robertson, Cole Hudson out of Frisco, Texas, up in the Dallas area. Connor Robertson right there at Austin Westlake. You guys hopefully got a chance to see our commitment corners in our film breakdown of both these young men. Very smart young men. Like we talked about in our commitment corner, we think they have the ability to move inside and outside. Not a lot of folks have them projected as tackles. And again, with the loss of Banks, the tackle position out of the state of Texas at this current point and juncture is you're talking about a guy like Cam Dewberry, who's talked about going to Ohio State. It's crystal ball to A&M. So maybe not the cards for Cam Dewberry. So you kind of got to look at this point, I think, out of state to Ernest Green, the 4th out of California, who, shot an Instagram message last night, with the Icy Whites. Then you got to look at Malik Ogbo, who's currently crystal ball to Oklahoma. But I think at this point, you got to get Devin Campbell. He's one of our top 5 can't misses for both of us to shore up that interior line. And then, like you said right before we went on air, I got a feeling because folks are asking us about the transfer from LSU possibly coming in onto the team, and you've got a feeling, and I have a feeling that Herb Hand likes where he's at with his current. I'm sorry, misspoke. Bad juju. But Kyle Flood really feels good about where his offensive line is right now because again, we've talked about it. They're young. You have a Tyler Johnson who's a 5-star top 58 player in the country. You have Andre Carrick, who played really, really well last year. You saw Isaiah Hookfin last summer dominate people. So I think you do have some flexibility. Jones is a junior. Jake Major's coming back for his sophomore season. So you got some youth. We'll see how this thing develops. But, yeah, I think you definitely have to start looking at offensive tackles, and you may have to look outside the state to get them.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and you're talking about Kyle Flood, man, I think the biggest thing, like you said, I think he trusts what he has on. I think he trusts what he has on campus versus what I think a lot of the Burnt Orange Nation currently feel, because then I think that's prior piss poor development of players. But I think what you're going to see is you're going to see, guys didn't have an opportunity, didn't really develop under the last coaching staff. I can tell you Phil Steele currently has us in the top 20 of best offensive lines in the nation. His word is usually pretty good. He made us look pretty bad with his Texas A&M top pick last year. I went and picked that up, and he has us as one of the top 20 offensive lines in the nation. So he really trusts what Kyle Flood can do with this offensive line, and I think he's just gonna, obviously we can't really tell right now the way he's going to go. I can tell you he likes big dudes, man. He likes guys that are over the 315, 320 pounds, and he wants big dudes that come in already, not guys that are small that he has to make big. And so you'll kind of see that as we continue on. So.
And let me go back real quick to the guys that we do have, and that's Cole Hudson and Connor Robertson. In negotiations or talks with one of them, trying to get them on the show next week. Currently out of town, so if we can sync that up, he'll definitely be on. And then number 2, these are smart football players. Like I talked about in the commitment corners, they have the ability to trap block, they have the ability to pull. They have desire that you can see to get to that second level and knock smaller players down. And again, I think they're going to be able to move across the line. Yes, they're interior guys, but I think they add a lot of flexibility. I think they have a chance to jump up in the rankings as this season goes on.
Yeah. So the next question comes from Gamers Life. I'll go ahead and throw that up here. Gamers Life, how did they leave off number 5? Obviously talking about Bijan Robinson off the top 50 players to watch list. I hope there's some crow to eat for those people that at the end of the season. I don't know how you don't name Bijan Robinson one of the top 50 players in the country. That's coming from, I think, Pro Football Focus, I think, is where those that top 50 is coming from. Obviously, he's been named in numerous either first team or second team, All-American, preseason All-American. I want to say Lindy's, Phil Steele, and I think Athlon's has him somewhere between first and second team. So for Pro Football Focus to not have him in the top 50 is kind of crazy to me. But hey, he's a humble guy. He's he's hungry, and I think he's gonna go out there and prove obviously those guys wrong.
It's just an omission. Like sometimes when me and Clint are going through our list of players, we have the potential to leave guys off. I just think they missed it. I think once it got printed, I'm sure the feedback told him that it got print, that it was a glaring omission. Again, he's on the Big 12's preseason all team, as a running back when there's a group of really, really good ones in this league. So yeah, it was just a glaring omission by PFF. If they had to do it over again, I guarantee you his name would be in that top 50, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of want to go down here. D. Taylor's talking about, Christian Jones is my breakout player at tackle. He's a big mauler, dude. He's a big dude. And I think that's what, again, Kyle Flood's looking for when you're looking at offensive tackles, are big guys. If you haven't had an opportunity to go over there and watch our breakout player video that we put out yesterday, I'll kind of spoil it a little bit, but you still have to listen to it. My breakout players, are hell, I can't even think now. We're Jared Wiley and Moro Jomo. Yeah, and I kind of wanted to speak to Moro Jomo a little bit. If you have an opportunity to go back about 2018, I want to say 2018, 247 did a piece on Moro Jomo as the best 17-year-old football player in the country. And I think me and Jeremy were kind of talking about this last night. If you go back and look at it, he is a 19-year-old junior, right? 19 years old, man. If you go over and look at Marvin Leal at Texas A&M, is currently 21 years old as a sophomore. You know what I'm saying? So I think that what that tells you is that Moro Jomo didn't have an opportunity to kind of grow into himself. And I think you're going to see a change fundamentally, strength-wise, in him this season. I think he's going to be one of your probably breakout players. And I know Pro Football Focus had him as one of the top 3 defensive tackles coming back from in the Big 12, man. But really excited about Moro Jomo.
And that's why we feel really confident about this defense. And you hit it on the head. You went interior defensive line. And if I had to do it all over again, I talked to Clint about some of my picks. Troy O'Meara, everybody realized last summer that he was going to be he's a different body type that comes to the table. So him was probably an easy pick. Again, my Brendan Schooler pick was, circling back to his back 12 days. But you talking about Moro Jomo in that interior defensive line, when you match him with, could possibly be on the second team with a guy like Devondre Sweat or Alfred Collins with a combination of Coburn. It's going to be hard for interior offensive lines from other team in the center and the 2 guards to handle these dudes. And what it's going to allow them to do is these athletes that we got from LSU, from Alabama, that transferred into this program and Notre Dame, hopefully have a chance to make plays along with, Agent Zero and that linebacker core to keep blockers off of them, and they run around and make plays. But I want to thank Vincent Sipple real quick for a $4.99 super sticker. I don't know that we've ever gotten one of those. So generally they come up as super chats. So yeah, but we really appreciate the donation to the channel. As you can see, we're developing every day, trying to bring a better product to you guys. And like Clint said, with our new distribution deal, it looks like we're going to be able to go on to Twitter. Eventually we'll figure out Facebook, YouTube simultaneously. And then you'll be able to find us on Google, Spotify, and the other audio-only platforms. So you don't have to watch us all the time. You can just listen to us in the car or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Hey, since we're staying on that offensive defensive line piece, David Williams here. There are at least 10 linemen that can compete for starting positions. If Tyler Johnson and Isaiah Hookfin can earn starting guard positions, it will push the offensive line to a higher level. And I absolutely agree. For some reason, I just feel like, and David, I feel like this is kind of where we're at, man. I think we have been in a lull with our offensive line. Not that I say our offensive line has played bad, because obviously you can't. Bijan Robinson is yes, he's a talented, elite, talented individual, but he can't do it all by himself. And so I don't want to. Somebody got on the other night and said, "Well, our offensive line is trash." Absolutely not. Our offensive line is not trash. I just think they're better at run blocking versus pass blocking. But you're right, man. If Tyler Johnson and Isaiah Hookfin could push for those guard positions, you're talking some serious space. Because Angelou's been started since his freshman year.
Freshman, yeah.
So if you could push Angelau out of one of those guard positions.
Again, watch the running performance. Again, Bijan Robinson's a talented running back, but watch the run game performance against Kansas State. Go back and watch Tyler Johnson's performance on that first drive against Colorado in the Alamo Bowl. He is truly an athlete. He's like Clint said earlier, he's a top 60 guy in his class. He was a 5-star. So yeah, if Hookfin, we watched Hookfin, or we heard reports of Hookfin dominating that defensive line we just talked about last summer and putting a hat on a hat and dominating folks at times during summer camp. So, like you said, David, you're spot on. Like I don't want to call out the too deep at this point because I know we got a brand new developer, on that offensive line. He also wears the offensive coordinator hat as well, and Kyle Flood. And he's going to get everything out of these guys he possibly can. But I think, yeah, like Clint said earlier, I think you're going to start seeing them move up. Are they farther along in the run game than they are the pass game? Absolutely. But I think they can find themselves as a top 10, top 15 line by the end of the year with a little bit of development.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It wouldn't. Let me see. You're talking about defensive line, offensive line versus defensive line. To me, it's one of these things where iron sharps iron, man, and they're going to be ready to go, man. Come football season. Tracy Williams is asking us, does anyone know how many scholarships we still have available for this upcoming season? I think, Jeremy, you have an idea, maybe.
Well, I was talking to Mike. Yeah, I was talking to Mike before our last live show. Essentially about transfers, and guys kind of asked during the show how transfers affect recruiting numbers and how many guys you could take per class. And I think he said 1 to 2 scholarships are still remaining. I think they want to hold on to those, like you said, for this incoming class. I really think their big board, they like their big board at this point. It's going to be summer camp, injuries, attrition, transfer portal that's going to drive the number of signings we get in December or January. But I want to say he said we only have 1 to 2 scholarships left.
Yeah. I know Jeremy, he probably knows roster a little bit better than I am. David Williams go back to kind of talking about really I'm always interested in recruiting, but my analogy for recruiting is walking. Results on the field is what is crawling, and then Texas first has to beat Arkansas, Louisiana, TCU, and Ohio or Oklahoma State. Win first, second, recruit second. And I think that's where you're at right now. And at these guys that you think you missed on that are going out of state, I think it's easier to get these guys to flip if they can see that there's change coming versus trying to flip someone from Oklahoma or Texas A&M or someone close to you that's not far away from home. I think sometimes it's easier to kind of get guys to come back into the fold that are further away from home than you're closer. Obviously guys you're battling for at those positions.
I did hear that on B&E this morning. It was Bucky talking about how as the season gets closer, those airline trips for mothers and fathers to Oregon don't come so easy. So like Tracy or David saying, if you win football games, then you have a chance. These guys don't sign letter of intent until December or February. And so if you can win football games, put yourself in a position again, we still got to do our season preview prediction. But in my mind, it's probably 10-2 at this point. I don't want to spoil my prediction. And you guys probably have the same 2 losses. But I think you're going to be competitive in those 2 ball games. It's because you got to go to an Iowa State team that's stacked and bringing everybody back. I think 11 out of 22 or 20 out of 22 starters on both sides of football. And you got to go to Ames. And then, of course, Oklahoma's a top 5 football team. So I think we're going to be competitive in both those games. But, yeah, if you can come out of the season 10-2 and show that you're competitive and you're developing talent and somehow you get guys in the draft or penciled in to get in the first couple of days of the draft, I think the sky's the limit.
We have our first Twitter, I think Periscope here from Kay Chapman, man. Just a quick hook 'em. I'm gonna throw it up there because it's a little different than we got from the YouTube. Not even sure how that works, to be honest with you. I know we just put our Twitter handle in there, and then I'm assuming we're live on Twitter. It'll be something we've never done before, and I think eventually we should be able to do Facebook as well. So we should be able to do, I think, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter on here all at the same time, which is pretty cool, man. As long as the comments don't come in too fast, man, and I can't keep up. But really excited, man. Thanks, Hook 'em, Chapman. Same thing here, man. This guy's coming in here talking about live on Twitter. I don't even know where to find it on Twitter. So that'd be pretty cool, man. I just don't know how that works, but we'll figure it out.
No, it is cool. Like we said, this is kind of a filling out process of our new toys. Yeah, excited to have different audiences. Folks have been asking us for this for a while. It's really cool to be on multiple platforms. Again, it's really going to get started in August when we find ourselves on Google and Spotify and audio-only chats, working with TPPN, the Pigskin Podcast Network, when we get that thing started in August. Still working on collaborations. got to talk of a show next week with another YouTube collaborator. So more to come with that. But yeah, trying to get players in here, recruits in here, and just trying to develop as many stories as we can because we're within 2 months of football. And that 60 days, it's the 7th of July, and on September the 7th, we would have played a football game by then. And so I'm ready to get it.
Yeah, there's some guys on here, man, that may have not ever been on here for whatever reason. They're on Twitter but never seen us on YouTube. So you can find us on YouTube. A lot of our videos are on YouTube. You can find us there at Texas Football Talk. Please hit that like button. Please, if you have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Again, we're learning about this new platform, but it's really cool, man. Because I don't know if I've ever seen K Hickey Simple there on Twitter, or BWBBO on Twitter as well, man. So that's really, really cool that we're kind of on multiple platforms tonight. So get back into, you want to talk a little bit CJ Williams, Final Five?
We can, but something we like to do, especially now that we're on multiple platforms, is every now and then we like to do a roll call. If this is your first time being on our show or viewing our show, please in the comments box, just let us know where you're watching us from and give us a quick hook 'em. The guys like David Williams, Tracy Williams, Working Man, we see you in our shows all the time. We've got a good idea, contact. We talk offline in the comment sections quite a bit. But if you're new to the channel, please tell us where you're watching us from. It's really, really cool, like I said, to get up on these multiple platforms. But yeah, CJ Williams, talented wide receiver, Modern Day High School, California, a friend of Malik Murphy's, has us in his top 5, along with Notre Dame, USC, and a whole host of other schools. But again, he's a different kind of body. He's a taller receiver. But yeah, just a kid that you wouldn't mind having the program when you're talking about Evan Stewart's and you're talking about Coleman from St. Louis, Missouri. Really, really stacked. Shaz Preston from Louisiana. Folks that have been in here and looked at the program, and this will be a great kid. But again, from what I see on the recruiting services, looks like right now we're battling Notre Dame for his services at this point.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it's coming down to Texas and probably Notre Dame. Kieran Hickey, my apologies. You were on one platform, you switched over to another platform. Said I've been here the whole time. He's K Hickey Simple or Kieran Hickey on YouTube. Man, hook 'em, brother, hook 'em, man. Let me see here. Just want to do something real quick. Tracy Williams here, man. I talked to him quite a bit. He says if anyone's interested in officiating football for the UIL, send him a message. He'll be able to answer any questions, concerns that you may have. So I figured I'd push that out for you, Tracy, man, here on the live. So if anybody's interested in officiating football, hey, on Friday nights, man, under the lights, y'all hit up Tracy Williams there if you're interested, man. You may get some guys may want to do it. Tracy Williams said, I got your back, man. Go ahead, Joey.
Go ahead. No, just straight. Coming in from JBLM, we've seen Dre on several shows. Real supportive of our channel. I was happy to be stationed in 2007, 2008 time frame at JBLM. I was going through nursing school there at Madigan Army Medical Center at the time. So yeah, it's a beautiful part of the country, especially this time of year. So yeah, hook them from Joint Base Lewis McCord.
Got a question here on the defense side of the ball, man. Here we go. Fat Man 0413 with Overshown missing the spring and Juwan Mitchell transferring. How will the linebackers perform this season? Your thoughts, Jeremy?
David Gabenda, I think he's going to have a great season. He was really showing out this spring. I think Steve Sarkisian talked about his work ethic and his performance in just about every press conference that he did during the spring. Jalen Ford, another kid, sophomore, number 41, I think will be a really good football player coming into the program. And then you're talking Ray Thornton, Obi Agufu, the Devin Richardson, the transfer from New Mexico State, Obi from Notre Dame. Not sure exactly how they're going to meld, and that's a show that I actually have up here, and I was talking to Clint on it, about it before. I think our next tape show is probably going to be front seven, and we're going to talk about how we're going to meld these transfers with the experienced defensive linemen we already talked about, Keandre Coburn, Devondre Sweat, Collins, Jones, and Jumbo, and how they meld with the new guys coming in from other programs. So that's definitely a show we're going to do.
Yeah. So currently, Jeremy kind of went through the names or whatever. So you're looking at 9 guys. I mean, if I would look at the linebackers, really probably pre-spring, it was significant concern to me. You know what I'm saying? Probably one of the biggest concerns going into the football season probably would have been the linebacker core. But if you look at it now with the day away coming back one, you have about 9 guys, 3 deep at each one of those positions, depending on how Pete Kwiatkowski decides he wants to run his defense. But currently, you have 3 guys. You're looking at Thornton, probably Dorba and Gufu at the jack position. Middle linebacker, you're looking at Dayaway, Gabinda, and Richardson. And then at will linebacker, probably Overshown, Ford, and Hulaby. So I think we're doing pretty well there at that linebacker position. So thank you for that question, Batman 0413. And I'm not sure if Jeremy froze up there. He's back. He's back in action. He froze up there for a few seconds, but I think he's back, man. So
I'm back.
He's back. Texas is not back. Jeremy is back. Okay, we've got to be careful saying that back stuff. All right. Okay. Texas has still got some work to do. Coach Strahan, just a little shout out here, man. Welcome to Twitter. We appreciate you, Coach Strahan. Thank you for joining us tonight there. Let's look at what K-Laws has to say here. Texas is in a must-win now situation with recruiting. How many wins will it take to please Sark in his first year? To please Sark or please the fan base? I know we're probably going to do a prediction show. Currently, I'm kind of between 2 and 3 losses, depending on, obviously the way the season goes. We'll see what happens. Probably do that towards the end of practice, getting ready for probably a couple of weeks before the first game. We'll probably come up with that show. Just want to make sure, kind of look at injuries and stuff before we make those predictions. Obviously, predictions in the middle of the season, you really can't help, but I'm somewhere between probably 2 and 3 losses, 9 and 3, 10 and 2, somewhere around there, which is significant. I think it's big time. Obviously, 10 and 2 would be wonderful. 11 and 1 would be great, and 12 and 0 would be fantastic towards the end of the season. So.
No, I kind of talked about mine. I hope you guys can hear me. Internet connection here is very unstable at the moment. I'm probably going to switch over to Ethernet at some point. Living out here in Central Texas, but kind of spoiled my prediction earlier. I think I have us 10 and 2, but I just can't see us losing those games under this current coaching staff that we lost last year, meaning TCU, because the other 2 games, of course, we know where those were and who they were against, and I see us having problems with them, the same 2 teams this year, but I still think we're going to fight. I think it's going to be a close game. They're going to have to work really hard to beat us.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where we're at, man. But again, the way that your performance season is what's definitely going to change the way your recruiting landscape looks going towards that first signing day into that second signing day, which is important. I think you actually get through all of your games minus the bowl game before, I want to say early on signing day, right? Is that correct? Because the last game I think would probably be the Big 12 championship is around the 2nd of December, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's really early in December.
Yeah, first Saturday in December. I don't think the early signing day is middle of December, if I'm not mistaken. And then February would be your second signing day. So you would obviously get through the entire Big 12 championship before these guys would sign for their first, have an opportunity to sign for their first signing day. Did you see a question, Jeremy, up there?
No, just kind of scrolling through. Kieran Hickey again, 10-win season will revive this program. I think so too. And again, it's how we perform. They were playing close games against those teams that are currently like racked and stacked better than us, and we don't lose those ball games to teams we should be. And in those games where we should blow people out, we blow people out by 3 or 4 touchdowns. So all gas, no brakes. But yeah, I definitely agree.
Let's talk about this real quick. Let's talk about NIL. Jeffrey K., what's your guys' thoughts on American Top Gym? I think it's American Top Team Gym offering the entire Miami team $500,000. Just a matter of time for something similar for the Texas program. I think so. I think where me and Jeremy were talking about last night. I don't think the law in Texas allows you to wear or use the team or the university as a ways to make money. So I think Jeremy was telling me if you go listen to Bijan's cameo or something, he can't say, hey, I'm Bijan Robinson from the University of Texas, running back, blah, 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 and start his cameo like that. It's just strictly Bijan Robinson. I think if you go back and you kind of look at what, Thibodeau from Oregon, what he's, signed a 6-figure contract to have someone draw pictures of him or something. in his uniform, different law, man. So I think what's going to happen is I think state law is going to have to change to allow all these teams in the state of Texas to be able to use Jersey and the university as ways to making money. But there are obviously guys that make a lot more money than me and Jeremy out there that may want to sign a contract with one of these players. But I think it's there's an opportunity out there to sign every one of these players to some kind of name, image, likeness contract.
No, you hit it on the head. All these state laws are different. And I was listening again to 104.9 today, the early show with Bucky Galpo and Aaron Hogan. They were talking about, because of that, they see a lot of consulting firms coming in to make sure these kids or these boosters don't get in trouble to violate just those simple laws or rules that are out there. And they see it being, for lack of a better word, troublesome. And that they may have to find a governing body or a commission at some point to legislate all this, because again, like you said, not everybody's rules are the same. And if you have a more free opportunity in the state of Florida than you do, it's more restricted in the state of Texas, then yeah, there's a chance that you could lose athletes to someone like the University of Miami, who's giving their players, regardless of position, regardless of position on the depth chart, $6,000. I think is what you said, right? $6,000.
I think $6,000 per player, again, which comes out to $500 a month or something over a year period, which is not. I was thinking about it. Obviously, for a college student, it's probably going to buy your groceries, maybe help you pay maybe for a cell phone, like cell phone bill and groceries, maybe what that $500 is going to pay. So it's not going to be the end all be all. So I think that kind of leads us to the next question that Coach Strahan had in regards to, do you think players, in college game will go 4 years versus going pro? Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, I want to touch this one first.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those things where their position in the draft, they're going to have to do a business case analysis like any of us would to decide how much money they're projected to make in their current slot if it was a second, third round pick versus what they can make with name, image, likeness at the university. Again, it doesn't have to be all tied to money. If a player's dream is to go to the pros, again, he would be risking injury or if he came back. And so some of that stuff would have to be factored in, probably some insurance. But yeah, if he can make more money playing college athletes than he can his what would be his rookie year in the pros, it depends on where he's going, where he's drafted, who he's drafted by, where he's positioned in the draft, what that money could bring him, and he'd have to compare it to what he could bring in for name, image, and likeness.
Yeah.
At the same time, having to worry about injuries.
Yeah, same thing. It's just, to me, if you have an opportunity to be drafted after 3 years, do you stick around? Probably not. And I think it has to deal with more with the injury, from an injury aspect versus a money aspect. To me, you got guys that are already holding out, college football, freaking, if they're not in the college football playoff, they're sitting out bowl games. And now it's lingered down. It's got to the high school level now. So I think it's more about injuries in making sure that you don't get injured prior to being drafted versus the money that has to do with it, because the money's not equal at all unless you got somebody like, I think, what they say, Masterpiece son that plays basketball for Tennessee State just was paid $2 million for a 4-year contract for name, image, and likeness. That's not happening for everybody. At least not told out loud. You know what I'm saying? They may have some kind of contract, some backdoor channel contract, or somebody's getting some kind of money like that, but I just don't see anybody making upwards millions of dollars when it comes to name, image, and likeness.
I'm going to plug a comment out here real quick.
Yeah,
Clint.
plug it.
From Caleb Chapman, need to get back to where it's Texas and Oklahoma every year in the Big 12 title game. And when playoff expansion comes, Texas needs to be in that playoff relevant. I agree with you. When the Big 12 used to be divided up in the North and the South, there was only going to be one rep. It had to be Oklahoma and or Texas in the South. When we lost 2 teams to the Pac-12, I felt like, that those 2 teams would be contending for a spot in that game. The winner would have a guaranteed spot, and the loser of that game would get an opportunity to have a rematch in the title game. That hasn't happened, and you're absolutely right, Caleb. I think those times are coming. Don't want to have my burnt orange glasses on too much, but I think we got the right people here with CDC, Jay Hartzell, Coach Steve Sarkisian. again, if they've shown nothing else since they got here, they're going to turn over every rock trying to get the best players here. And he's put it on himself, said they got to be the best developmental coaching staff in the country. Every now and then I tweet that out to remind the fan base that he understands the expectations that he's coming into. And I think he's, at this point, willing to give it to us.
Johnny Munoz over here, man, just showed up. Johnny Munoz, man, the Astros must be timeout or something, halftime for the Astros. Johnny Munoz on here. How much can I get paid for my name, BMD, Munoz, image and likeness? I'll send you a couple of dollars, man, to your PayPal here in a few minutes after we get off. All right, Johnny, but you're going to have to retweet this show at least 5 times over the next 2 days. All right, deal? All right, cool. Thank you. With a quote tweet. It actually has to be a quote tweet, not just regular tweet, quote tweet. All right, and then we'll get you that money. There was a question up here that I had picked out. Let me go ahead and remove this one here. There was a question. I got to go all the way back up. Kobe Harris wants to talk about our man BJ Foster. I will ask for D. Will because I know it's on his mind. Thoughts on BJ Foster? We all had him as one of our breakout players until the emergence of Schooler. I think BJ Foster, and I said this I think a couple of months ago. I really did. I think he has an opportunity, regardless of if Schooler's the guy or not. I think BJ Foster has an opportunity to have a breakout year as well. I really do. I think it's based on scheme and how PK is going to be able to use this guy. To me, if you go look at him and you currently look at Harold Perkins, a guy they're trying to recruit in this class here, and you look at a BJ Foster, I think those guys can probably do about the same things. I think you can play them, in the secondary versus and have them play really that star position that really Pete Witkowski is looking for. And I think it kind of just comes down to, but again, if BJ Foster is not a guy that's starting, that tells you how good your depth is on that defensive side of the ball. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, because it doesn't stop with him, when I chose my breakout player on defense and I said it was going to be Brendan Schooler, I went back and I told Glenn I probably picked a guy who may not even start because he's going to have to compete with like J.D. Coffey, Jaron Thompson, B.J. Foster, Tyler Owens. Like that safety position is a little bit deeper than I think we give it credit for. But yeah, I would love for B.J. The only thing is when we went to the spring game, as I remember, we asked each other several times, where's B.J. Foster? And I don't know if he was nursing an injury or he'd kind of been in the doghouse. Don't want to speculate anything like that. But it just didn't seem like he was getting the snaps. And it may be because Brendan Schooler was new to the defense, but I feel like everybody was new to PK's defense. It's going to be one of those things like we talked about earlier with the offensive line. And you got quite a few guys there who you feel are competitive, and it's going to be a meritocracy. Whoever has the best reps in practice that week will probably get the first look on the field. If they make mistakes, they'll get pulled off the field, and the next guy will go in. That's how football's supposed to be played. That's how depth charts are supposed to be made. So, just my thoughts on BJ. BJ was a 5-star recruit coming out of Angleton. You know it with the likes of Caden Stearns. So, yeah, ton of athletic ability. Would love to see him, making those big hits in the secondary for Texas this year.
Yeah, so I had to get Johnny Munoz's face up there on the big screen. Johnny, there you go, brother. Got you on the big screen up there, man. That'll definitely get you a couple more dollars on that name, image, and likeness situation here. He's really just making a statement here. I think our running backs are going to have a breakout year because I think that our Longhorns are going to be a heck of a running football team. I kind of talked about it a little bit in our last video that we just pushed out yesterday. So if you hadn't had an opportunity to go watch that video, it's really talking about 4 breakout players. And I think we limited to 4, but I think there's more guys that could have breakout seasons, or you hope that have breakout seasons. It kind of goes back to there's a preseason, all conference selections, and you hope that at the end of the season you got more guys that on the postseason all conference selection than you did have on the preseason. And I think that's where you're kind of pushing to go. But to me, I kind of said it yesterday. I think you're going to see a lot of probably 12 personnel, probably 2 tight end sets, and a lot of running the ball. So if you kind of go back and look at what Iowa State did with their tight ends, in Breece Hall last year, I can see almost Sarkisian doing that same piece, and then obviously setting his guys up. Obviously you're talking about Wiley, Probably Jatavian Sanders, who's probably going to be playing tight end as well. Mismatches on safeties and linebackers, and then hit people deep, deep in O'Meary, and then Moore, as well as probably Xavier Worthy with that speed. And so, kind of my thoughts, man, on the way the offense is going to work. But
yeah, and I don't disagree at all. I think it's going to be a combination of carries, and I think it's probably something we need to talk about when we do our depth chart preview. And we're talking about the running back position is distribution of carries. How many is Bijan going to get? How many is Roschon going to get? How many is Keelan Robinson going to get? Is Jonathan Brooks going to get any playing time, or is he going to redshirt this year? But yeah, Bijan, Roschon, Keelan Robinson, Jonathan Brooks, Gabe Watson, pretty stacked running back room at this point. And yeah, we'll talk about distribution of carries, and earlier we talked about the offensive line. We think the strength team or their unit is run blocking. So, like Clint just described, just run the ball, set up the pass.
Yeah, so Kobe Harris said, "Please don't bring up Perkins, guys." To me, we'll see, man. We'll see. I think he really likes what PK wants to do with him from a scheme standpoint, and that means a lot to guys. Man, if they can see you fitting in their scheme, there's a good chance that they have an opportunity to come to you, man. But recruiting is all going to be based on what we look like this year on the field. Bottom line, man. Bottom line. Go ahead, Jeremy.
One more comment that I want to talk on. Colby dropped it in the chat before we started the show. We kind of went around it, but I think it's important to talk about because I made notes on it. He was talking about also an update on Evan Stewart. Oh, I'm trying to click it. You're trying to click it. Yeah, we're learning. Also an update on Evan Stewart. Saw him wearing Longhorn workout shirt and white and burnt orange shoes on his YouTube docuseries. As we chronicled before, Evan Stewart is a TikTok guy. He's going to flirt with every fan base as he possibly can. Do I think we're in that final two with Alabama and Texas? Because that's what his current profile picture is on Twitter, is him laying down an Alabama uniform, and also with Texas. I think we're in a good spot with him. But he's got official visits to LSU lined up. He's friends with Nick Evers, who's the quarterback commit that they play 7-on-7 for flex up in the Dallas area. Who's committed to the University of Florida. So he's also talking to Florida. So teams you got to beat for Evan Stewart services are Florida, Alabama, and LSU at this point in my mind.
Yeah, I don't disagree, man. I think Florida and Texas currently probably the top two schools we're looking at, that he's looking at. I would probably put it at those two schools. Probably Alabama somewhere third, and then LSU somewhere there as well. But there's a long time to go on that one. But at the same time, he's probably one of those guys that probably decommits from you, and you still have an opportunity for him to commit. But again, it's based on what this offense looks like this year, and what, obviously Joshua Moore or Mary or Xavier Worthy or any of those guys, Whittington, look like this year, depending on how our wide receivers are going to look at the end of this recruiting cycle.
Agreed.
So I think we're probably about 11 minutes past, and I think Jeremy's got some reservations to eat tonight. I don't want to keep him any longer than what he has to, but hey, we just wanted to kind of come on here really quick. You had something to add, Jeremy, before you get on?
No, I appreciate you. I was never going to mention it, but we kind of got a time clock feature on here. And yeah, Colene's we're going to have to race across town to get to the Italian restaurant before our reservations, but I think they'll still see us. I think we'll be good.
Absolutely, man. So, hey, we come on here on Wednesdays, usually try to keep it to 30 minutes. I think we're currently at about 41 minutes on this show tonight. Kind of wanted to show off our new little set here, man. Hopefully everybody kind of enjoyed it, liked it, man. Hopefully it gets people wanting to comment a little bit. But we appreciate it as always, man. And I want to unhide that comment. There it is. Hopefully you appreciate it. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday night 2-minute drill. You can find us on Twitter at TX Football Talk, on Facebook at TX Football Talk, on Instagram at TX Football Talk. Please hit that like button. If you have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and hook 'em.
Hook 'em.